sounds like there's a lot of warriors on the line, which is exciting. And it's interesting how some people said their name was a warrior instead of their actual name. So that's great. We've got people from all over the country, from New York to Washington, in Canada, Toronto, Vancouver. So this is very exciting. And I know we have a few people on the line from overseas because we did get some emails in from them. And it is midnight or in the middle of the night for some of them, so this is very exciting. A couple things, some rules for the teleclass. Just want to make sure you're on a landline and not a fax line, because sometimes that creates some noise on the line for us. And you may want to have a paper and pencil on hand so you can take some notes, because there's going to be lots of very valuable information. And just wanted to welcome you again to the Millionaire Mind Show live with T. Harv Eker and his millionaire guest. And so those of you that are on this call, it's because you purchased 10 or more books for the big launch we had back in March. And we want to first thank you for helping take Harv and the book to #1. And I know Harv always likes to say that it's not his book, it's everybody's book. It's your book, and it's everybody's book, because it's going to help change the world, and the more people that know about it, the better. So thank you very much for helping take that book to #1. And we really hope you're going to enjoy this call. It's going to be very exciting. And Harv, if you're on the line, I'll let you take it away.
No, I'm not on the line.
Oh, you're not? Darn. Okay, I just walked away a bit. Welcome, Harv.
Hey, thanks. Thank you so much. So welcome everybody to the Millionaire Mind Teleshow. We're calling this a teleshow. And as you know, my name is T. Harv Eker, and I will be your host for this exciting hour. And I want to thank you also for your time, and thank you for supporting the book. Again, we went to #1, USA Today, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. It's been quite a ride, and in fact, I just met with my book agent again today in Los Angeles. We had lunch, and you know, there's a lot of other publishers out there that are very excited about what we've done and what we hit on, and lots of offers are coming in, so lots of good things happening here, and we're looking at possibilities of the next book and when that might come out and things like that. So anyways, again, Michelle's right. I do count it everyone's book, at least everyone from Peak Potentials, because we all made it happen, and I actually count on you for inspiration, believe it or not. You got to get it somewhere, and there's only so much that I can do on my own. And literally, it was my declarations at some of these major events, like Warrior and Wizard, where My Still Heart of Gold, where I actually, you know, for my breakthrough event, declared and committed to writing a #1 best-selling book. And just goes to show you the power of commitment and the power of intention. I've really been hot on this intention subject for the last little while. I just can hardly believe it myself. I really believe that when you grow yourself, one of the greatest things about growing yourself and working on yourself is that when you can get to a certain level, I think that one of the ways you actually get to see how far you've grown is by how quickly your intentions manifest. And I'm really beginning to witness this now, and it goes faster and faster and faster. And you know what? When I fall down myself and how I'm feeling about myself and things like that, when I'm not 1,000% confident, which happens sometimes, like everybody else, I notice that my manifestation skills become a lot slower, and that my intentions are a lot slower. So literally, you can tell by how quickly you can manifest things as to how you're growing. I hope that makes sense to you. Anyways, I'm very, very excited because, you know, believe it or not, this isn't a normal seminar. It's a little more like a tele-show, I guess. You call it like a radio show, but it's on the telephone. And we have a pretty different format, I guess you'd want to call it, because each week for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be examining the minds of rich people, millionaires, multimillionaires, and billionaires. And not just for the strategies, but for their financial success, but the thinking behind the strategy, the thinking behind the wealth. Again, I really believe, even more than ever, that your money blueprint, how you think, will determine your financial success. Everything is a result of that. And the more people I meet and the more I do this, you know, normally you'd think after a couple of years of talking about the blueprint and the millionaire mind, and you know, a person like myself, usually I get bored of things very quickly. I'd get really bored of it. I'll tell you what, I am less bored. I am more excited about it now than ever. I am totally passionate about this. I've seen the results. every single night when I do the Millionaire Mind evening or wherever city I'm in, if we've done the event before, people buying the book, literally, when people are getting their autographs for their book, I cannot believe one after the other, hundreds and hundreds of people telling me what's happened for them since they started doing this work. And I hope you feel the same way. But literally, you, again, have hit the jackpot. This is the root cause of success. And if you stay with the growth in yourself, if you stay with the growth in your own mind, and you can manage your own mind, I guarantee you will become successful. And that's really what it takes. So the format of this show, again, is talking to millionaires, billionaires, and literally learning what makes them tick from the inside out. And again, we'll even be discussing their money blueprint so you can see what they learned when they were young and how it affected them and how they might have turned it around. Again, environment is very, very powerful. In fact, my guru, Yogananda, said environment is stronger than willpower. And so the way I see it is that I kind of pretend is that if you hung out with rich people most of your life, there's a good chance you'd probably end up rich. They say that you're going to end up basically within 10% of your closest associates in income. So if you hung out with rich people, you'd probably end up rich. So in this show, you're going to get a chance to hang out with rich people, extremely wealthy people, and literally get a chance to hear how they think. I hope you're going to enjoy it. Also, if there's some time near the end, we might be able to answer a few of the questions that have been emailed in from some great people, and we'll do our best to do that, and we'll take that from there too. So, like I said, one of the great things I'm very proud to be able to do is I've got some wonderful associates and friends that I've met along the years, and I'm going to be bringing a few of these people on for you to meet. I want to introduce my first guest, and actually it's our inaugural guest of the four. And literally, this gentleman has over 30 years of a variety of different businesses and investment experiences. He's actually started over 15 different companies. He's negotiated hundreds of million-dollar-plus deals. All told, he's raised over $1 billion of financing for business ventures that he's been involved with. And he's done small business deals. He's done multi-million-dollar deals on Wall Street. He's been involved in businesses of every kind, from car washes to cable companies. He knows business and investing from every single angle, from raising money to start or refinance a business, to operating a business, to evaluating businesses, to buy and sell, to investing in businesses and in the markets. In fact, my good friend Robert Kiyosaki, the author of best-selling Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, he acknowledges this gentleman in the foreword of his book for his financial wisdom and all his help. Most important thing is the result. The result is very simply this. He's rich, okay, and didn't have it handed to him on a silver platter. So how about a big welcome, Mr. Keith Cunningham. Keith, thanks for being on.
Thank you, Harv. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much. So, let me start with something pretty simple here. And are you rich?
Yes. Yes, and I'm smiling when I say it.
An unequivocal yes. It's very funny that sometimes when you talk about money to certain people, they get really shy and whatnot. But I find that, most rich people, they're pretty proud of the fact, and they're not going to put it over top of anybody. But generally, they haven't got a problem saying that they're rich. What do you feel about that?
I agree with that. I don't have a problem with saying it. On the other hand, I don't want to say it too loud because then all my friends that don't have any money come up and want to have some.
Okay, that's okay. That's definitely part of your blueprint. You know what? Take a couple of minutes here and run us through a bit of your background, a bit of your past, where you came from, where you grew up, what was your family situation like, a couple of jobs, businesses that you went through, especially when you were young.
My background is I grew up in Houston, Texas, to a very middle class family. My parents were very frugal around the subject of money. They didn't buy things that they couldn't afford. They in fact, as I was growing up, the only thing I think we ever borrowed money for was a house that we lived in. But I learned at an early age. One of the things my parents taught me that I've always been grateful for is they taught me the value of money because they at a very young age, probably 9 or 10 years old, we started having to do errands around the house and mowing the grass, and for that we got a quarter or 50 cents or $1 or something like that, and we basically had to earn our allowance. And the allowance was to be used for anything that we wanted that was extra, and as it turns out, almost everything was extra. and so we learned at a very early age the value of money. I actually started, Harv, my first business when I was 11 years old. I started delivering eggs because my grandmother had a little farm outside of Houston, and she had chickens, and I started delivering extra eggs that she had from her little chicken farm to my neighbors in our neighborhood in Houston. And I bought the eggs from my grandmother for a quarter a dozen, and I sold them to our neighbors every Saturday for 50 cents a dozen. And within about a year and a half, I was selling 500 or 600 dozen eggs a week to our neighbors.
And how old were you then?
I was 12 years old.
And you were selling a couple of hundred dozen eggs a week?
I was selling about 500 dozen eggs a week to our neighbors. And so here's a 12-year-old kid who's knocking down $100, $150 a week, and it would be in 1962. Because I'm 55 years old today, so
that'd be like about $1,000 a week.
Oh, I was rich.
$2,000.
I'm telling you, I was rich. It was the greatest thing that ever happened. And after about 2 weeks, my dad comes to me and says, Keith, you need to start keeping track of your money. And this is a very powerful lesson. And he actually gave me a ledger that he got from his office, and the ledger was just a real simple accounting. It basically said here's how much came in and here's what you spent it for, and at the end of every week I had to show him where my money went. And I'll never forget, on the front cover of this ledger there was a picture of a 3-masted 18th century sailing vessel, and it was listing real hard, like it was about to sink, and the caption underneath this picture was, "A small leak sinks a great ship, Benjamin Franklin." Mm-hmm. And that was a very powerful lesson to me that I got when I was 12 years old. I started buying stocks with my extra money because my dad had he was with AT&T and had a way for us to be able to invest our extra money through.
So was your dad, and did he do some investing at the time?
No, he basically had a pension and a profit sharing. Not really a profit sharing. It was a matching fund, so that if he set aside 5% of his salary, AT&T would match it, and then he could buy AT&T stock at a discount. And I got to own some of that stock. So by the time I went to college, I had saved up enough to pay for my own college.
Let me ask you this, Enki. That's great. And let me ask you this. We talk a lot, as you know, about the money blueprint, and that's really how did you get conditioned when you were young? For what were you conditioned, and how has that affected your life? So there's 3 arenas that we talk about. We talk about verbal programming. What did you hear when you were young? We talk about modeling. What did you see when you were young, especially from your parents? And we talk about specific incidents, things that occurred for you when you were young. Like obviously certain ones are already coming out. For example, your parents were quite frugal, yes? And so did you feel that, do you consider yourself frugal at this point? What would you say?
I would say I probably am, considering how much I could spend, but how much I don't spend. So,
right. Would you say that was one of the keys that allowed you to amass the wealth that you've amassed, the fact that you are based in frugality and you don't spend just, an immediate gratification right away? Would you say that?
I would say there's no question about that. One of my core beliefs is that you can either create a lifestyle or you can create wealth, but it's difficult to do both. Mm-hmm. So I mean, although I have a very nice lifestyle today, I haven't always had that lifestyle, especially when I was first getting started, and the lifestyle that I have today is way, way less than what I could do if I wanted to, but it's a whole lot better than average as well.
You know what? Let's make sure that everybody gets this lesson right away, because that's one of the things you and I have in common. I wouldn't say that I would probably say that I am closer to frugal than a spender by any stretch. And certain things, I don't pinch pennies, but I don't like to get ripped off. I feel like the closest person I've ever heard talk about this is actually Oprah, who feels exactly the same way. She could spend. She's one of the richest people on the planet. She could easily spend $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 on a purse if she wanted to, and yet when she sees a purse that's on sale and she says it's a good buy, she goes for the one that's on sale. Or
yep.
And I feel the same way. Like, for example, I just came in on a limo from L.A. to Phoenix just now to my home, and literally the guy said when they told me at the when I ordered the limo that it would be $68 plus a tip, comes to $78 or $80, and I said fine. And then when the limo guy dropped me off, he said it's $72 plus the tip.
Right.
And I said, no, your dispatch said it was going to be like $65 or $68. And he says, no, you live a little further away than the resort, so it's an extra $5. And I said, well, you know what, that's great, and you can tell them that I'm never going to use them again.
Yeah.
And it was like, it really burnt my butt. Hello. I mean, I could say $5. What do I care, $5? But you know what? To me, $5 is $5, and I still remember when I was a kid, $5 is $5. So I would say that one of the things we have in common, and a lesson for everyone to really take hold of this, and this happened again this morning on a TV show I was on, is the understanding about the difference between that rich people look at every dollar as a seed that could be invested to bring home $20 or $100 or $1,000, and most other people, like you say, they look strictly for the lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with lifestyle, but strictly from the lifestyle standpoint, immediate gratification, they're willing to blow that dollar. And just, whatever it is, they just want it now, and they got to have the best of the best, and that's all fine and dandy, but you're going to choose at this point in time between a balance that allows you to have great things now and wealth and freedom in the future, or just great things now. So I think frugality and saving your money and spending it on investments and education and things that give you high returns is a point that we definitely have in common. I think most rich people, there's no way, would you agree, Keith, that there's no freaking way that someone can get rich if they have an immediate gratification sweet tooth?
I agree. I think instant gratification it's even a bigger picture than that. I mean, one of the things I've thought about, Harv, is that when I look at the root of all my problems, and I don't care whether it's around money or anything else, one of the root cause of all my problems, lurking near the root is instant gratification. And certainly instant gratification in terms of building wealth. I mean, the two don't mix. It's interesting you said what you said about the limo driver. One of the examples that I use when I talk to people is a latte a day. And a latte a day, $3.50, not that big a deal. Is $1,000 a year over 30 years. That's $30,000 you don't have. Whereas if you would have invested it at 8%, you instead of not having $30,000, what you would have is $250,000. And one of the things that I'm addicted to is lattes. And every day I go get a latte, and every day I think about that holy cow, I mean, I'm in the process of giving up $250,000, and I can afford it. But it still makes me crazy.
Yeah, it makes me crazy too. I don't know. I just don't like. I'll give you just the smallest examples, little things like, and this is where again we want everyone to understand how rich people think. We're not saying that every rich person thinks like this, but I wowould say more think like this than don't.
I agree.
And literally, like I'm getting a massage tomorrow. I've been on the road for a couple of weeks now, and I have a choice of a 50-minute massage or an 80-minute massage, and it's expensive where I do this. I live in the Boulders, and we have a very nice, one of the highest class spas in the nation, the Golden Door, and it's I think $120. No, it's $130 for a 50-minute massage. It's $180 for an 80-minute massage. Now my daughter's coming in, so for sure I got to get her the 80 one. But I got to tell you what, I'm getting a big one for myself. But the 180 just kills me. I go, I can't believe I'm going to spend this kind of money for a massage. It's ridiculous. It's like $50 more than I should be spending. And literally, I got to tell you the truth. If my daughter wasn't coming in and I was doing this myself, I'd only get myself the 50-minute one. It's not that I don't feel I deserve it. It's just that it bugs me to give away money more than I have to. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. I agree. I agree with that.
So I want everybody to get that, and not that we're cheapskates, okay, because we're going to spend money but listen, watch your pennies. Invest your pennies. Use them for education, where things get returned back to you. Again, every penny is a seed that can come back tenfold or 100-fold if you use it properly. So number one rule, one of the things that Keith has brought out here in his blueprint is that he had frugal parents and he learned that good habits. And the other big thing was along the same lines is managing your money properly, because he said right away that when he was 12 years old that his dad did him a favor and gave him a ledger to keep track, and keeping track is another way of managing your money, and that's, of course, something we've talked about before. And if you've fallen off the jar system, by the way, my friends Keith, they're on this jar system that allows them to manage money very easily. And if you've fallen off it, make sure you get back on it. You swear to yourself right now, put your hand on your heart, and can make a commitment. Say, I'm beginning the JAR program again, or I'm doing better at it and increasing it the minute I get off this phone. And I promise you, if you do that, things will radically take a new shape for you. So let's go on, Keith. What were some of the other things that you would say that you picked up when you were young that affected your life now, as far as your conditioning process around money?
One of the things that I picked up was and this one I rebelled against. It's interesting. My parents were totally risk averse. They abhorred risk, and there were all kinds of opportunities that they had. And over the years, I heard them bemoan the fact, "Oh God, I wish we would have done this. Oh man, we should have done that deal." And one of the things that I think I rebelled when I read your book, Harv, which is excellent. I started thinking about my blueprint, and that's where I first started thinking about some of this stuff. And I thought, you know what, I did rebel against that, and maybe the reason I rebelled against it is because I saw. And they haven't changed. Both my parents are still alive. They're in their 80s. And they still look back, and one of them will punch the other one over the dinner table and say, we should have bought that piece of property in 1953. and so they're always looking back, and there's always this regret. And I think one of the things that I learned, and they never said don't take risk, and they never said do take risks. They didn't ever give me any advice. I just saw that I think the message that I got is that you got to risk in order not to fail, if that makes sense. In other words, the only people who wind up truly failing are the people who never took any risk.
Yeah.
And so I looked at it, and I probably went overboard because I was a risk hound for probably the first 15 or 20 years, probably 15 years of my career. And I took outlandish risk and actually made a fortune from doing that, and I also lost a fortune from doing that. So,
but I guarantee you learned.
Oh, the whole, and that's a whole different story. But the learning from losing the money was probably more than I learned when I was making the money.
Well, again, here's the thing, though, that people don't get, that it's all a process of learning. Again, every master was once a disaster. You have to learn how to do everything you're doing, whether it's investment or business or any other vehicle that you're trying to create wealth with. And here's what I'm getting out of this, everyone wants to hopefully write down, is that no risk, no learning.
Yeah.
Because if you're not willing to take a risk, you're not willing to do anything. You can't learn anything, my friend, sitting on your butt. It doesn't work like that. You have to go out there and take a shot. And, so yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. And it's going to be uncomfortable mentally, emotionally, and maybe physically for sure, and financially. And, yeah, that's just the way it is. That's the way you grow. For example, I was at my lunch today, and one of my attorneys was with us, and he's working on some very, 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 very big deals, bigger than I've even imagined in forever. And I question myself sometimes while I'm hearing them. I'm going, wow, can could I really pull this off? My God, I mean, this is huge, and I'd have to be like so great on TV, and I've never hardly done any TV. I know where to look at the camera, and and then another voice comes in and says, you know what, Harv, you'll learn how to do it. Just get out there, start practicing, take every interview you possibly can in front of a camera. You'll learn how to do it. You'll be great. If you're not great today, you'll be great tomorrow. If not tomorrow, the next day. Okay? You put your intention on it. You'll learn how to do it. You don't have to be perfect right now. You don't have to be perfect ever. Just keep going for it. Just keep saying